In the heart of a bustling town, filled with busy streets, laughter, and occasional chaos, lived a young woman named Sarah. Sarah was known for her kindness, authenticity, and a heart that seemed to shine brightly, even in the darkest of times. However, what many didn't see was the turmoil that often swirled within her. She had always been true to herself, embracing the good and the bad, yet it seemed the world around her was not quite ready for such honesty. Growing up, Sarah learned early on that being real sometimes came with a price. In school, while her classmates shared stories of extravagant lifestyles and perfect lives, Sarah spoke her truth. She talked about her struggles, her dreams that felt out of reach, and her constant journey of self-discovery. While her friends laughed and joked about the latest trends, Sarah would share her fears and hopes for the future. At times, this made her feel like an outsider, like a weird puzzle piece that never quite fit in. As Sarah entered her 20s, she found herself navigating relationships that brought her joy, but also confusion. With every connection she made, she tried to remain authentic, but she often faced the harsh reality that many were not ready to accept her truth. When she spoke about her aspirations, her genuine self, and her struggles, she could see the flicker of fear in others' eyes. They seemed scared, almost as if her authenticity was a mirror, reflecting their own hidden insecurities and unfulfilled dreams. One day, after a particularly deep conversation with her friend Emily over coffee, Sarah felt a wave of frustration and sadness wash over her. Emily had opened up about her own struggles, and Sarah felt grateful that their friendship held space for vulnerability. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling that outside their little bubble, the world was filled with people hiding behind masks. Emily said something that hit Sarah deeply. "You know, sometimes I wish I could be as real as you, but I'm so scared of what people might think." Those words echoed in Sarah's heart. She understood all too well. She had felt that fear too, the fear of rejection, judgment, and the uncomfortable truth that being real might make others feel small or inadequate. But she also knew that living a life shrouded in pretense was a prison. As Sarah walked home that evening, she pondered the countless encounters she had witnessed. People pretending to be someone they weren't, living lives dictated by societal expectations, hiding their true selves under layers of perfection. It struck her deeply that her authenticity often provoked fear in others because it illuminated their shadows, their unspoken truths. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah found herself reflecting more on this concept of authenticity and fear. She decided that rather than dimming her light to make others comfortable, she would embrace her real self even more boldly. She began crafting a blog where she would share her experiences, her vulnerabilities, and her journey towards self-acceptance. At first, she hesitated, worrying about judgment and backlash. But as she wrote, she felt a sense of liberation. Her words flowed from her heart, carrying the weight of her journey, the struggles she faced, and the triumphs she celebrated. She spoke to the fears that so many felt, but rarely expressed. For every person who felt lost or trapped behind a facade, Sarah wanted to offer hope, understanding, and a gentle push to embrace their authenticity. As her blog gained a small but dedicated following, Sarah started receiving messages from people all over. They shared their stories with her, expressing gratitude for her honesty. Some wrote about their own struggles with self-doubt, while others spoke of the masks they wore to fit into a world that didn't seem to value authenticity. One message stood out to her. A young girl named Mia wrote, "Thank you for being brave enough to share your truth. You've inspired me to start being real with myself, and I'm finally beginning to feel free." These messages made Sarah realize something profound. Her story was more than just her own. It was a collective experience of so many who felt the weight of expectations and the fear of being seen. Every time she shared a piece of her truth, it resonated with someone, easing the burden they carried within. With each blog post, Sarah found herself growing stronger. She embraced her authentic self, understanding that her realness could illuminate paths for others who were lost in the shadows of insecurity. She began to speak at local community events, discussing the importance of being true to oneself. It was during one of these events that she met David, a fellow speaker who shared his own journey with vulnerability. He spoke about how he struggled with societal pressures and the fear of judgment when he decided to live authentically. Something clicked between them, and afterward, they engaged in a heartfelt conversation. Sarah found comfort in the way David spoke openly about his fears, and she admired his courage to confront them head-on. As their friendship blossomed, Sarah and David became advocates for authenticity together. They hosted workshops aimed at empowering others to discover and embrace their real selves. They encouraged participants to share their stories without fear, reminding them that their truths, no matter how messy or imperfect, were worthy of being heard. They crafted an initiative called Unmasking the Truth, where they invited individuals to strip away the layers of pretense and share their authentic selves. The community response was heartwarming. People began gathering, sharing their fears, dreams, and stories that had long been buried. One participant, an older gentleman named Richard, shared how he had hidden behind a mask of success for years. He felt he had to maintain an image and keep up appearances, but inside, he felt empty. After many years of living for others, he realized that he had missed the opportunity to live for himself. As he spoke, tears glittered in his eyes. For so long, I thought being real meant being weak. But now I see that it's the opposite. Being real is the bravest thing I've ever done, he said. The room erupted in applause, filled with encouragement and acceptance. In those moments, Sarah felt a powerful sense of connection. There they were, people from all walks of life, stripped of their masks, sharing their truths and finding solace in each other's journeys. It was beautiful to witness. Sarah realized that by simply being herself, she had sparked a movement that allowed others to feel safe enough to share theirs. The weight of pretense began to lift as they all learned the profound lesson that it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to be vulnerable and scared. Real strength lies in authenticity. Over time, Sarah and David's work continued to grow. They created a safe space where people could explore their emotions, share their fears, and learn to embrace their authenticity. As they reached more individuals and communities, Sarah felt the ripple effect of their efforts. It was like a chain reaction of truth igniting within people, giving them permission to be real. Years later, Sarah stood at the same community center where Richard had shared his story. She looked out at a sea of familiar faces, each one filled with warmth, encouragement, and a newfound sense of self. They were no longer fragmented pieces of a puzzle. They were unified, strong in their commitment to being genuine. As she began her speech, her heart swelled with gratitude. "Being real isn't always easy," she said, her voice filled with conviction. "It means facing fears, confronting the parts of ourselves we often hide away, and showing up even when we feel vulnerable. But it's also the most liberating gift we can give ourselves and those around us." She shared the importance of embracing our true selves and how that act alone could inspire countless others. When you live authentically, you give others permission to do the same. You create a ripple effect of truth and empowerment that can change lives, she said passionately. In that moment, Sarah realized the true power of embracing authenticity. It was more than just her journey. It was a collective movement of individuals supporting, encouraging, and uplifting one another. And as they stood together, united in their truths, they became beacons of hope in a world that sometimes felt dark and deceiving. After her speech, a young woman approached Sarah with tears in her eyes. "Thank you for sharing your story. I've been afraid to be myself, but hearing you today gives me hope. I want to start my journey towards authenticity too," she said, her voice trembling but filled with warmth. Sarah smiled, her heart full. This was what it was all about, lighting the way for others. "You've already taken the first step," she replied gently. "Just remember, your truth is beautiful, and it's worth embracing." And so, the journey of authenticity continued. Sarah, along with David and their community, became champions of realness. They inspired people to break free from the fear of judgment and the shackles of societal expectations. Through storytelling and connection, they illuminated paths of self-discovery for countless individuals, allowing them to embrace their fears and reclaim their lives. As Sarah reflected on her journey, she no longer saw her authenticity as being too much for others. Rather, she came to understand that it was an invitation for those who were ready to join her, those who were willing to step out of their comfort zones and into their true selves. With every story shared, every fear confronted, and every mask stripped away, they created a world where authenticity thrived, a world where everyone was free to be exactly who they were meant to be. In the end, Sarah learned that being real is a beautiful gift, not just for herself, but for everyone she encountered. It spread like wildfire, igniting hearts and inspiring a generation to step into their truths, unafraid and unapologetic. And so, if you find yourself in the shadows, scared of being seen, remember this: you are not alone. Your authentic self is waiting to emerge. Embrace it, honor it, and let it shine brightly, for in your truth lies the power to inspire, to uplift, and to create a world filled with love, acceptance, and genuine connection.